Welcome to Coyote's Corner. This episode, Michael Lang will be sharing a story from his youth, the Wodridge Brothers.
On a summer's day, the Woodridge kids are racing along the street. Half a dozen boys on bicycles speeding through the wooded neighborhood. As an adult looking back, it's hard to imagine a time when the Hardys, the Jenkins and Gerards did not feel like family. We were the latest to arrive in the neighborhood, but Ben, one of the Hardy boys, once revealed that he and his two brothers, Josh and Nate, had been excited to learn the Langs were coming to town. The Langs. They must be from Hong Kong or somewhere in China. Maybe they'll teach us Kung Fu. Perhaps that was why the Hardys were the first to welcome us when we arrived that day. I can only imagine their disappointment at discovering these Langs were not from the Far East. My brothers and I were all born in Kansas. Whatever disappointment they felt could not have lasted long, for that day they invited us to make the first of countless sojourns to Woodridge Field, the neighborhood park. That first afternoon, my mother was reluctant to let me out of her sight, but today, I have earned the right to leave parental supervision behind. I have earned the right to ride with the older boys. Rounding the final bend in the road, the soccer fields come into view. One by one, we swoop across the narrow wooden bridge that spans the deep drainage ditch. We pedal through the freshly mowed grass, leaving faint trails behind us, like fighter jets soaring through the bright blue skies. Drawing close to the gravel that surrounds the tennis courts, the Woodridge boys dismount. Some of us pause to lean our bikes against the tall fence, tucking handlebars between metal links. The rest of us, we simply toss our bikes aside. They lie forgotten in the afternoon sun, their tired wheels turning in slow circles as we scatter into the woods. Nate is the first to find our prey, a tattered and ratty tennis ball. I don't remember ever bringing a ball of our own. There were always plenty to be found, lost in the woods. With the prize clutched tightly in hand, we gather around the towering green wall of the tennis court, each of us glancing to all the others, like gunslingers waiting for the first move to be made. Nate raises the ball, as though to throw it towards the wall, but then he gives us all that sly, mischievous grin. He drops the ball behind his back and takes off running towards the wall, while the rest of us scramble to recover the ball. My older brother Jeff scoops it from the green and red asphalt. He turns without pausing to aim and fires towards the wall. But Nate beats it by a hair. I don't remember anyone ever teaching me how to play butts up. Perhaps it was a game that we invented together, or perhaps it's one of those games that always has been and always shall be, so long as children have a ball to throw against a wall. Our faded and ratty projectile bounces harmlessly to the ground. Jason Gerard, the youngest of his siblings, snatches it in midair. He carefully takes the 3 steps that are allowed before throwing the ball once more. It rebounds off the wall, but I misjudge the course of its flight. It bounces between my fingers and falls to the ground. "Run!" someone shouts. I take off running as fast as I can, but the older boys are too quick. The throw is made, and I have earned a 1. A foul, a penalty. There was never any title for the numbers we tracked. All that matters is that in some intangible official's journal, I have a 1. Nothing could be worse than a 1, except a 2. 3, however, was a terrible crime, a crime requiring immediate punishment. Being the youngest of the boys, Jason and I were eager to prove that we had what it took to play with the older boys. In our eagerness, we often made mistakes, and it was usually one of us who would always be the first to earn the dreaded 3. Today, I am the offender. I stand facing the wall, bent over, my head down, my bottom raised high. The other boys all line up at the far side of the court, and they each take a turn throwing the ball at my raised posterior. Fortunately for me, soccer is the game of choice in the Woodridge neighborhood, and no one ever had any real aim with a tennis ball. Even Nate's bullet of a throw seems to somehow stray off course. It screams past my ear. I'm deafened by the thwack of rubber against wood. I'm not sure if I'm the one shaking, or if the wall is trembling in response. But it is the last of the throws to be made. Justice has been served. The sentence is complete. The game can now continue. As daylight begins to fade, we all mount our bikes, some of us sitting a little more gingerly than the others, and we make our way home. Our parents greet us, asking, "Did you have fun with your new friends?" We did. Can we play with them again? Day after day, week after week, we played with our Woodridge friends. Whether at the field, the local woods, or just riding our bikes around the neighborhood. The weeks passed, turning into months. As the years went by, our bicycles turned into Gertrude, the Hardy's bright orange Volvo. The older boys formed a garage band, the name of which our parents never quite liked. Through broken hearts and broken bones, the occasional call from the police, we all became a family. And that is why a part of me will always be here in this place I called home, playing with all of my Wodridge brothers.
That was Michael Lang telling the Wodridge Brothers. I'm sitting down with Michael now to get some background on that story and see where it came from. Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely, Toby.
So, what is the genesis of this story?
Well, this story, obviously it comes from my childhood, but the written version of this story started several years ago. I was trying to do a writing exercise of crafting a scene from a single moment in time, and for whatever reason I chose this moment from my childhood of playing this game. After completing that exercise, I felt like I wanted to do something with this, and I've always struggled with trying to make a full story out of just this one moment. But it seemed just the right time to try to do it, to try to pull this story together, and to share it.
So what kind of challenges did you have meshing this in with your normal writing style?
Well, as far as my writing style, the difficulty on that end was during that exercise that I was doing, trying to keep myself in just this one moment. There are so many stories with this group of people that could all be woven together that it would simply go on and on and on. It would be pages and pages. And so trying to force myself to remain in one moment in time proved very difficult. But then even after this was written and I was converting it into a normal story, it was not the way that I would normally describe a scene. And when it came time to record it here for Coyote's Corner, I found that I had a really hard time telling it as an oral story. There were these jumps in time and perspective that I was doing, which in the written word can be translated to the reader through a break in a paragraph or a similar move that to a reader it makes sense and it's understood. But transitioning to an oral story, it didn't work. It left the story feeling very cluttered and very, very choppy. And so I found myself having to rewrite these whole sections when we sat down to record this.
Okay, I know some of those changes came out that actually took care of some of the issues that you brought up initially where, gosh, this is this one moment in time. How do I bring it out further?
Right.
Framing it with that narration seems to really...
Yeah, how do I really talk about these people and what we all mean to one another with this one moment in time? It seems very frozen, very isolated. But in reworking the ending to kind of smooth transition into the epilogue, I brought in these aspects of some of these other moments in our youth that really drew us together. Not dwelling on them, but simply mentioning things that the folks who were there, they know and they understand, and the entire story is laid out with just that one phrase. But my hope is that people who don't know these particular incidents and moments, they can relate with their own childhood experiences, their own teenage experiences. There are some things that are just common. Children getting into trouble and causing mischief is one of those things that I'd like to think everyone can relate to. It's a pretty common experience for us human beings.
Okay. And that kind of goes into my next question, which is why this story? We've talked about how it came to be, but what made you want to tell or share this writing exercise that has since expanded?
I think what I really wanted to do was to tell a story about my family and the fact that there are people in my life who they are part of my family, but we're not related in any way other than being really good friends, really good neighbors. But there's that relationship that has been built, and trying to simply put that question out there of what is family? Is it something more than being related to one another? Is it more than living under the same roof? To me, the answer is yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for sharing this story with us.
Absolutely.
And to our audience out there, thank you for sharing your time with Coyote's Corner. If you want to hear more from Michael, check out his website at coyotesinc.com, where you can download a whole bunch of tracks that we've recorded here previously. You can check his schedule and see where he will be performing locally.
And as always, don't forget to like, favorite, share, subscribe, so you never miss anything that's going on here.
And until next time, this has been Coyote's Corner.